Okay, greetings, this is Sarah Leonard. I'm just going to keep looking at my phone to make sure you all can hear me okay as I'm out in the netherworld here, and so wish I could be there in Kenai. The KPEDD Annual Economic Forum and the group that Caitlin and Tim, is one of my favorite events to go to, and I'm just bummed I can't be there with you in person. But thank you for accommodating my presentation online and via Zoom. And I do want to give a shout out to groups like KPEDD and the other economic development organizations that really came out early on in support of the tourism industry. And we worked together throughout these past years to get on the road to recovery. So thanks to Tim and the group for inviting me. I have just a short slide deck to share with you about the tourism industry and moving forward in this new year. And so I'll go ahead and get started. And again, I'll keep looking at my phone, Caitlin and folks, just to make sure the presentation is going smoothly. So first, I just want to share with you ATIA's goals moving forward. As an organization, we are the leading statewide organization for travel and tourism in Alaska, the Alaska Travel Industry Association, and representing over 600 business members and organizations for travel and tourism. Our goals moving forward have been to be the leading advocacy voice for Alaska tourism. We also are the longtime managers of the Alaska statewide destination marketing program, Travel Alaska, and we promote and facilitate travel throughout the state of Alaska. We serve as a broad-based association of individuals and companies with an interest in Alaska's visitor industry. We're statewide. We have businesses and organizations in every region of the state and have a diverse membership of different industry sectors and providing different visitor experiences. We also have been involved in developing best practices for Alaska's tourism industry, whether it was most recently to work on COVID-19 industry protocols, but also through our programs like Adventure Green Alaska, which is our voluntary sustainable tourism certification program. And then we also work cooperatively with public and private land managers and resource agencies on tourism development and long-term growth of the tourism industry in Alaska. And so in this last year, even though 2021 was challenging, not as challenging as 2020, but we did have some highlights and successes I just wanted to share with you under those goals. As far as our advocacy efforts, we were part of a group advocating for the temporary waiver of the Passenger Vessel Services Act so that cruise visitation could continue in Alaska, and we saw cruise ships come late this last summer to primarily Southeast communities. We also communicated quite regularly with our congressional delegation to have specific travel and tourism business language in legislation like the American Rescue Plan Act. That was to highlight how travel and tourism and the hospitality industries and businesses were some of the hardest hit during the pandemic. Under our membership and partnerships around our broad-based association, we have a memorandum of understanding with the Alaska Native Heritage Center in our efforts to incorporate and build stronger partnerships with Alaska Native and cultural tourism entities. We also maintained in a tough year a membership of just over 600 tourism businesses and partners, which I think shows that our community still values the benefits that ATIA was able to provide throughout the pandemic. Another non-traditional partnership that emerged was our partnership with the Department of Health and Social Services, where early on we worked with Department of Health and Social Services to provide current travel information to travelers that were looking at what type of testing and then eventually vaccine availability was available at our airports and in Alaska as travel resumed during the pandemic. We also have a partnership with the Pacific Northwest Economic Region around accelerating the recovery of tourism businesses in Alaska. And that's a regional partnership involving Alaska, the Pacific Northwest states, and our partners in Canada. And then finally, we had a pretty amazing partnership with Royal Caribbean, where Royal Caribbean reached out to us to provide emergency grants and assistance to tourism businesses and charities in the pandemic through our ATI Foundation. So we were able to, with that partnership, facilitate over $800,000 in emergency assistance to businesses in Southeast Alaska, but also in South Central and the interior. Moving on to statewide destination marketing and the Travel Alaska program. In this last year, through federal stimulus funds and with support from the governor's administration, we were able, like other community organizations and convention and visitor bureaus and our community partners, we were one of the recipients of a COVID-19 Safe Travel Grant, just under $2 million. So we were able to do some marketing this past summer and into the fall and winter season to attract independent travelers to continue to visit Alaska. We also early on in 2020 received $5 million in coronavirus relief funds, again, to invest in the marketplace and provide the right information to travelers around COVID-19 safety protocols around travel and to inspire folks to travel to Alaska. We also established a cultural enrichment committee as part of our marketing efforts and working with our marketing committee, where the cultural enrichment committee is tasked with providing our team and staff guidance around incorporating and enhancing cultural and native tourism messaging and imagery in our marketing efforts. And then most recently, we were the recipient, ATI was the recipient of an Economic Development and Administration non-competitive grant of just under, it's just about $10.5 million to continue investing tourism dollars into the marketplace. And again, I want to give a shout out to KPEDD and other economic development organizations, as well as our tourism partners throughout the state that were supportive of us receiving that grant, but also to manage the Travel Alaska program and really start investing dollars in the marketplace again and keep that momentum going for statewide tourism marketing. I also just want to mention under our goals of best practice, we worked with an informal return to cruising working group to educate communities and businesses around what type of industry protocols our cruise partners were working on, but also within other tourism business sectors. Previously, we received a different Economic Development Administration grant of over $2 million to develop industry safety protocols, to do training and in-state awareness around how our industry can remain resilient as we continue to recover from the pandemic. And then this isn't often mentioned in the highlights, but I do want to mention that ATIA continually and also had a successful audit. So with any nonprofit, under our best practice, we manage our investments and our grants wisely and efficiently, and it shows with the guidance from our board of directors that we have successful audits. We also hosted under Tourism Development and Planning a land forum where we brought together public and private land managers to talk about land and resource issues, and focused on one of the ATI Board of Directors' priorities around the safe solution for the road into Denali National Park that has been a priority for the ATI Board of Directors. And then we did also, just skipping down a couple bullet points, have really great conversations with our community partners around a different pathway of funding that we didn't receive funding for, but around the Build Back Better efforts through stimulus funds. And I think that even though we weren't one of the recipients, but congratulations to our friends in Southeast Alaska and the Southeast Conference, they were one of the recipients. I think it just generated and motivated and kept going these great collaborative conversations around how our industry can partner with other sectors and other partners to continue recovering, and not only just recover from the pandemic, but recover better. So now I just want to move on to what we're doing under our Travel Alaska program. And Travel Alaska, for those of you that aren't familiar, this is the statewide destination marketing program. ATIA has been a longtime manager of Travel Alaska for the state of Alaska and for businesses and communities across the state. As I mentioned, we developed a cultural enrichment committee led by Camille Ferguson, currently one of our ATI board directors from Sitka, Alaska. And through that committee, we are dedicating resources to gather additional photo and video assets of imagery and experiences from our cultural and native tourism partners. We've also gone through a brand refresh for Travel Alaska and for how we present messaging to potential visitors that really enhances and amplifies and helps share the stories of Alaska Native and cultural tourism. And we've developed cultural patterns under this Cultural Enrichment Committee's guidance, cultural patterns and imagery that we can incorporate throughout our Travel Alaska messaging and marketing. And so some of just one example of that was when we refreshed the 2000 official state vacation planner, our main printed collateral piece that we distribute to potential travelers. Through the most recent update, the last update we did of the vacation planner, there were additional enhanced sections around arts and culture today, and sharing modern day stories from Alaska Native representatives and cultural stories. So I think it's really a beautiful piece. We're really working on continuing to enhance those messaging and amplify that even more. This slide, I'm giving you guys a sneak preview of the new Travel Alaska, our main consumer, travelalaska.org, our main consumer-facing website. So KPEDD, you're receiving a sneak preview of our rehaul of our website, which we've been really working tirelessly on to launch this year, which will not only include increased or improved navigability for our travelers visiting Alaska and looking for that information, but really will be incorporating some of that enhanced imagery and cultural stories and assets. And also it just needed a complete refresh. So I'm really excited to be able to give you just a sneak preview of one of the home pages, and be looking for that in the new year here shortly as we launch that. We also had public relation efforts, and one of our biggest hits was the Rise and Shine from ABC News Live from Alaska, where we had this reporter join us at the Alaska Native Heritage Center and also at the Wildlife Conservation Center, and did stories. There were two live video hits from this broadcast, and reached hundreds of millions, or we had hundreds of millions of impressions from the Live from Alaska, from Good Morning America. So this was a big highlight for us this past summer. And then also with the COVID-19 Travel Safe Grant that I mentioned earlier, we were able to do some summer marketing to visitors, to primarily independent visitors, using these tactics: cable, streaming, YouTube, social sponsored content. Our theme was Go Big, Go Today. After visitors had been, stuck at home or hunkered down, we were inspiring them to come to Alaska and go big. And we also partnered with Alaska Airlines to do customized ads where individual businesses and communities could use the same slogan and leverage that opportunity or that same theme to do customized ads and to work together to market to independent travelers. We also reinvested in our in-state travel campaign, Show Up for Alaska, where we reached out to Alaska residents to show up for Alaska and visit some Alaska communities or businesses that maybe folks hadn't visited before while living here in Alaska. And then we were able to extend that campaign through fall and into winter, and shifted the messaging to be one of rejuvenation, where Alaska could be that place where you could take care of yourself and relax. And again, we use tactics around social, digital, print, and publisher emails. I'm going to switch gears here now and talk about how we monitored this last season. Our team tried to keep a dashboard of sorts around how the travel industry was doing and recovering. And this was at a time where we really had lack of funding. So this was gathering existing information and trying to just track sort of data points around the tourism industry recovery. So air travel in 2021, we saw or heard from most of the major Alaska state airports that they reported traffic that was on par this past summer with 2019 numbers, indicating there was a surge of independent travelers. And that obviously was better than the major decreases we saw in 2020. We have continued to see just decreases, just not at the levels of the rental tax revenue. From January to June, it dropped from levels in 2019. And then I think throughout our communities, we experienced that shortage of rental cars due to supply chain issues, which I think impacted the rebound of car rentals in 2021. And then lodging, we checked in with our community partners around what they were seeing as far as accommodations and lodgings, and that while this past summer lodging did get back to 80 or sometimes 100% occupancy, it was really across the board, where some hotels that relied more on cruise visitors didn't ever reopen. Some did, some were doing okay. But that they were starting to recover, and we were seeing at least up into the 80% occupancy. For cruise travel, obviously this in 2019, or I was going to say in 2020, we didn't see any visitors. And that's from, I'm just showing 2019, we were seeing record number of visitors, over 1.3 million visitors. In 2021, we did see late sailings in the summer with the waiver, the passage of the temporary waiver of the Passenger Vessel Services Act, and a huge shout out to our congressional delegation. That was a huge lift to get that passed at the federal level and bring some really needed economic activity to communities that rely on cruise visitor spending and activity. So we don't have the exact capacity of those cruise ships that did and were able to visit in Southeast communities, but we projected that there were sailings, and that we did this past summer see about 175,000 visitors. We also tried to track traveler sentiment through our partners at a research group called Destination Analysts that has been providing free traveler sentiment at a national level since the pandemic. I just pulled recent numbers from their report in December, where they're showing traveler sentiment was high earlier in the year, but has declined later this year due to variants and rising cases, and this is nationally. 23% of Americans or fewer Americans are reporting traveling over the holidays. It's down slightly, and I think this is directly associated with the new Omicron variant. But the good news is, well, there is a 5-point decline in percent of American travelers saying they will take leisure trips in January. I'll get to the good news in just a minute. I'm also seeing from national trends that right now, currently, this is a screenshot I took from Destination Analysts of their most recent report, that people are scared, people are worried, they're concerned, and I think, again, this is directly related to the Omicron variant being so highly publicized and in the news lately, nationally, as well as in Alaska. However, the good news, I wanted to jump to the good news after some of that not so good news, so I was a little ahead of myself, but in 2022, travelers say they will focus on fun. So again, this is from recent statistics from Destination Analysts. There's an interest in just pure leisure travel, just getting out there and having some fun after all of the hard times I think people are experiencing, and that grew to almost or just to 69% of American travelers. Over a third more American travelers expect to take leisure trips this year than in 2021. And American travelers are saying they will prioritize having fun at 75%. And that's over being asked, are you going to take a trip to relax or find happiness or escape stress? So travelers are really looking at this year, getting out of these challenges and really is taking vacations and having fun. And I think Alaska is well positioned to be able to provide those experiences for travelers. So I also want to mention that moving forward, we'll talk more at ATIA about our Travel Alaska program, what our marketing program will look in 2022 with the recent grant funding that we have received. And we are still planning for our hybrid event, January 18th through 20th. So coming up here in the next week or so in Anchorage at the Dena'ina, you still have time to sign up if you would like to join us. We will be practicing COVID-19 mitigation strategies, which none of us want to do anymore, but in order to be responsible and really just be able to hold an event safely. And I can provide more information about that, or you can look to ATI's website. But I encourage you to really look at the program we've put together, where we're going to share lessons learned. Our theme is Better Together. We really want to connect in this new year, talk about how we emerged from last year, how we can move forward when we're all working together as partners. And then in 2022, and this year also, we are still planning on going to Sitka for our maybe more regular annual convention and trade show. And that theme, which we've already publicized, is Back to the Future, not in a bad way, but highlighting, again, our successes and gathering together again in a safe way in Sitka in October. So again, I want to thank you. As I mentioned, I always love to come to the Economic Forum on the Kenai. I'm so bummed I can't be there with you in person. It's so hard not to connect and even see you all or hear you all there, but I really thank Tim and the group for always inviting and having me, and wish you the best of luck on the rest of the day's session. Thank you.